Hi, I'm Wayne Jaco with Cumberland Sales, and today on the Riggers Box we're going to be talking about wire rope clamps, how to use them in the field, and how to select them when purchasing. So wire rope clamps are a real friendly and easy tool that you can take a piece of cable and turn a loop into the end. We refer to that loop as an eye, so I'll probably use that terminology moving forward. A wire rope clamp only comes with a couple of pieces. It's a very simple connection to make when you're putting them on. I'll describe how to put those on later. Ultimately, you've got a U-bolt, you've got a saddle, and you've got a couple of hex nuts, forged hex nuts, to put on the end to tension it up. And this is the way that we have installed these clamps to make an eye on the cable. So one of the questions we get a lot of here in the shop is how many clamps to use. Each size cable will dictate how many clamps that you need. So for this real small cable, say it's 1/4 inch cable, you may only need 2 clamps. Whereas this larger 5/8 cable calls for 3 clamps. There's a couple of different kinds of wire rope clamps that we should note, because this cable, 1/4 inch, that got 2 cable clamps were drop forged cable clamps. We have a lighter duty cable clamp called a malleable cable clamp. This is what they look like. Both of these cable clamps are for 7/8 wire rope. Clearly one of them is significantly larger, and it's also significantly stronger. So it can only require 3 clamps for this 5/8 cable, whereas the lighter duty application would get a 4th clamp to hold the entire rig together. And that'll give you about 80% of the strength of the cable. So it's a pretty good connection point for in-field use. So there's a couple of charts out there. We have one in our catalog. Crosby has a real good installation manual on how to install these clamps and the sequence and the pattern. So ultimately, when you make this eye, you'll start with the furthest clamp away. That'll be clamp number 1 on your install. Then you'll grab the second clamp, slide it all the way up, make your eye. That is going to be the one that holds it. Now with this one, it calls for 3 clamps. So it's a real simple idea. All you do, put your first one and your second one here, just like this. The third one, all you have to do is put it equal distance away from the 2. What if you got 4 clamps instead of 3? Instead of equal distance in the middle, equal distance to the side. You just keep splitting that distance. If you feel like you need more tail end because you want to add a couple of more clamps, the only way to add more clamps, you can't just throw one in the middle. You actually have to extend that tail out further to add another clamp. So there's a couple of different types of finishes on the surface of these wire rope clamps, just like a lot of other rigging supplies, just like a lot of other steel products in the world. You'll have galvanized, stainless, and then we even have one more. It's basically just zinc plated, electro-galvanized. Some people will use that term. Zinc plated gives you a little bit of rust corrosion protection, not a whole lot, but it gives you the base layer of protection. Hot dipped galvanized, literally they've manufactured this component, dipped it into a vat of zinc, and now it has, you know, kind of a middle of the road, can be used outdoors in most cases and not really rust. If you're gonna be using them underwater or in a clean room of some sort where you definitely need to have maximum corrosion protection, stainless steel is a great option for you. Certainly more costly, a little harder to find on the market. We stock a whole bunch of them. We actually specialize in stainless products here at Cumberland. So wire rope clamps are a real easy way in the field to terminate or put an eye on the end of a cable. They're very user-friendly, they're economical, and it's easy to use them in the field just because all you need is really a socket or a wrench. There's other options where here in our rigging shop we'll take and press fittings on to cable using very heavy-duty machinery to do this. Those types of things can be done in the shop and then taken to the field, so they're not quite as advantageous in that sense. Now, this wire rope clamp assembly is good for 80% of the cable's capacity, where those manufactured pressed fittings onto the cable are good for 90%, so they're a little bit stronger. Even this aluminum duplex sleeve, which doesn't take a machine, rather it takes what looks to be a big set of bolt cutters, we call it a manual crimper, will bite onto this aluminum sleeve and give you the same thing. It'll give you an eye. So there's different applications. This is also 90%, but there's different ways to terminate cable, not just cable clamps. There's a lot of options for putting fittings on the end of your eyelet. So we could have actually, before we turned this cable, we could have put this eye bolt inside of this eye, and it would have been a permanent, semi-permanent solution for having something on the end. On this one, we've added a turnbuckle inside of our cable clamps, for example. So there's many different options that you'll see, and these are just a couple. So there's one last type of wire rope clip that you'll find pretty readily available on the market. It's actually called a fist grip. The difference is, with your wire rope clamp, you've got a U-bolt and a saddle. With this fist grip, you've actually got two saddles. That's where your strength is found in these clamps, is in the saddle. So it's almost fail-proof in a sense to where you can never really put it on backwards. Let me show you what I mean. On this assembly here, we've got wire rope clamps found with the saddle on the load end of the cable. This is the load end. This would be going to your truck or to your winch. This is the tail end. See how it's shorter? It's just the tail end. So what you want to do is never saddle a dead horse. That is what we say in the industry, pretty common terminology. Always put the saddle on the live end of the cable. With the fist grip, you don't actually have a U-bolt, so you don't have to worry about that. It's got saddles on both sides, so it's interchangeable in a sense on how you would install it. A couple of industries that use these would be anything in the personnel industry. So you're talking elevators, personnel hoist, swing staging, anything that where you're moving people and you can't afford to have an installation error. That is when you'll want a fist grip. One other good alternative for using a fist grip is if you had a cable main line coming in this way and you had another main line coming in this way and you just needed to connect these two. We call it a splice. This would be a great option for a fist grip because you can put 3 fist grips on this side of your cable, say 3 fist grips on this side, and you've got a real good connection with saddles on both sides of that cable. Thanks for joining us again today at the Rigger's Box, our video on wire rope clamps. I hope you enjoyed the content. I got somebody to tow out of a ditch, so I'm gonna get out of here. Don't forget, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hopefully you can tune in next time to see a video about round sling.